Before we go on and discuss a little bit about the transliteration, I want you to get a look at how one can write these letters. For example, the Aleph is generally made from one diagonal stroke from the upper left to the lower right, and then two shorter strokes which meet that longer stroke. It's not quite an X, and it's because the two legs are offset. You can see the downstroke here and the downstroke here with a little bit of a gap here. The Bet, you start at the top, make an angle and go perpendicular, and then there is a stroke along the bottom. What's very important here to distinguish it from the Kaf is that you have an extension of the stroke on the right. The Gimel has a little tick at the top. The stroke goes down diagonally, and then there's a little stroke off of that diagonally to the left. In type, this one is sometimes confused with a nun, as we'll see in a moment. So get used to distinguishing the two. We'll look at that on another slide. The Dalet is simply, and here again it's important, it's a horizontal stroke with a little extension to the right and then a downstroke. The Hey, horizontal, vertical stroke, and no extension here is necessary when you're writing it, but it's okay to write one. And then there is a little gap, and you can see the downstroke here. The Vav is basically a little tick at the top and then a vertical stroke. The Zayin is similar and can sometimes be confused because it is a vertical stroke, but then it has a diagonal stroke along the top with a little extension down beyond the perpendicular stroke. The Chet is similar to the Hey, across and down, and then another perpendicular stroke that exactly meets the top horizontal stroke. The Tet, you make a horizontal, go up, and then a U shape coming off of it. With the Yod, a very small curved stroke. Notice that it starts to be written similar to a Vav, but you don't go all the way down. Now, some people kind of make the Kaf a little bit more rounded to make sure that it is not mistaken for the Bet, but other people make it more like three sides of a square, but notice that there is no extension on the right as there is with the Bet. The final Kaf is written with a horizontal stroke and then a vertical stroke that goes below the line. Okay, so it's longer, say, than the Dalet. Okay, that's important because otherwise they look kind of alike. So, but the Kaf goes below the line. The Lamed, you go down, across, and then kind of a curving line to the left. The Mem is formed almost like a triangle, but you start on the lower left, vertical curving line, going down in kind of a curving line, and then across horizontally on the bottom with a little tick on the left-hand side. The Mem that is final is almost like just drawing a box, but on the final stroke, it does not actually meet the horizontal on the left. Instead, there's a little extension on the side. The nun is written very small. You want to be sure that you distinguish between it and the kaf. So there's just a small little horizontal, vertical, and then another small horizontal stroke. The nun is similar, except instead of curving around at the bottom, you again go below the line. Most of the final forms, in fact, that is what they do. The samik is almost like drawing a circle, except you leave this little extension on the upper left to one side. The ayin, you draw a curving line down and across, and then a diagonal stroke that meets it about halfway down the curve. The pei, you kind of think of it as going kind of around a square, but then instead of coming around to meet the horizontal, you go down vertically and then across. The difference between that and its final form is that instead of curving around at the bottom, again, you go below the line. You can see a theme here that most of the final forms go straight down below the line. The tzadi is diagonal and then back in a horizontal, and then another horizontal that comes down to meet the other diagonal about halfway. The easiest way to make the final form is to draw a vertical line below the writing line, and then a diagonal stroke that comes down to meet it halfway. The kof, straight line that starts somewhat down from, say, the top hanging line, and you go down and then you curve around. In a way, it can end up looking a bit like our letter P, except this part of the stroke is not meeting the vertical line. The resh is a curving stroke, starting with the horizontal, then curving around and going down vertically. The shin is easiest to do if you make kind of a U shape and then draw a diagonal that meets the left-hand corner. This is true for both the sin and the shin. And then the only difference then will be the position of the dot. So this is the sin with the dot on the left, a shin with the dot on the right. The tav, you make a curving line, horizontal, curving down vertically, a little bit like the resh, and then on the left-hand side, vertically down, and then you kind of scoop it to the left. This way you can distinguish between that and the chet. Practice writing these out using this template so that you will be able to have facility in writing Hebrew.